Hey vinyl community, welcome to or back to Ryder's record collection. My name is Carl and I have been collecting records for quite a bit of time. And when I first started to collect records, I watched a lot of YouTube channels and videos on all sorts of things relating to records. One of which being how to clean and care for and maintain records so you can get them looking as good and sounding as good as they can possibly be. And one of the things that I really wanted to do when I started my channel was talk about how I clean my records. So in this video, we're going to cut to me cleaning up a couple of thrift store records that I found, and hopefully you guys will enjoy and learn something new. So here we go. We're going to start cleaning some album sleeves now. So what I use when I clean my album sleeves are Lysol disinfectant wipes and microfibers. I have one here just so I don't clean it right on the counter. The Lysol wipes do a really good job. Sometimes you got to wring them out though, so they're not super damp, but these are some pretty dirty, grimy thrift store records, and sleeves could definitely use a cleaning. So again, the Lysol wipes. Like I said, sometimes when you get to the bottom of the barrel, they get really juicy and slimy, and you don't really want to do that because it'll mess up your sleeve. But I like to fold it in half and just go to town on it. And you can be fairly aggressive depending on the condition of the sleeve, but that's obviously a judgment call. Kind of got to figure it out as you go, but you can use it on both the front and the back side. You can really get in there, like I said. I like to do the edges as well, unless there's a split, in which case you don't want to do it, but I just kind of work it until this thing runs out of juice, or I am satisfied with the way that it looks. Now this one was pretty dirty and it looks a little bit better than it did, but you can see all the stuff that it took off with this thing. So we'll go through a couple more of these, and there's a gatefold and a white album. Not the Beatles' white album, but a white album, and we'll see what this does, and I'll show you how I clean my outer sleeves. And then after I clean my sleeves, I always put them in one of these vinyl style protective outer record outer sleeves. And that way it's clean and it can go into my collection after I clean the vinyl itself, and it's protected. You can find these online, but I like to go to my local record store and give that guy my business and buy from him. But yeah, so I got a Rolling Stones album, a Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and a Grateful Dead album. So let's see how these clean up. You also want to take the record itself out when you do this, so you're not doing it with this record in there. And that one needs an inner sleeve, which I like to do too. If I buy an album that doesn't have an inner sleeve, before I clean it, I throw one on there just so it doesn't get all scuffed up any worse. I don't do this with new records that I buy that are brand new, because if they just came from the manufacturing plant or the factory, they're obviously pretty clean. But any old album that I get, I clean, or I do this to the sleeves. It also gives it a really nice shine, which you will hopefully be able to see after I clean this Rolling Stones record. This one's kind of ripped on the back, so when you have an area like that, you don't really want to work it too much, but you can do a quick pass over it, and that generally does a good job. Again, like I said, when you do the edges, you don't want to do anything where there's a seam split. And then this thing has paper pages inside, and I would advise against doing this on paper pages. These look pretty clean, but the cardboard sleeves themselves, the protectant on it, you can do this too. So this one wasn't as bad as the first one, but you can still see that I got some stuff out of there and blew it around in the light, and as you can see there's a certain shine back to it, which is really nice because it brings the albums back that way. I'm not going to sleeve this one until I get a sleeve for that record. Every time I find one of these at a thrift store, I pick it up just because the album's so good, and I also need to get an inner sleeve for it. And sometimes, depending on the condition of the record, you can do one of these for 2 sleeves or one for a gatefold, but it all just depends on what you're going for. And obviously, as you guys probably assume, they're not all going to be perfect, and there are many different ways to do this, but this is the way that I learned how to do it from YouTube, and I figured that I would share it again on YouTube because it is one of the best ways that I know how to do it. I've tried a couple different ways with like spray and simple green, and it kind of dyed some of the colors, and this is what I think is the best way. Not perfect, but it cleaned up a little bit. See if I can't get a little one of these out. Better than it was. I will give this one an outer sleeve when I get a record, or a sleeve for the inner sleeve. I got this Grateful Dead record that somebody gave me, and hoping to get some of these splotches out here. The name's not going to come out, but we'll see what happens. But this is a nice gatefold, so you can see that you can do a whole gatefold with one of these things. I like to hit every spot. I think this one's got some water damage, so I don't think it's going to be totally perfect, but it's such an iconic album cover that you can't ignore it. Again, like I said, there are other ways to do this, and some people use erasers and all sorts of different things, but this is my surefire way, and this gets the job done to a pretty satisfying point for me. So if I find another way in the future, I will let everybody know. Again, gatefold. I like to get the inner spines really well on the gatefolds, but you can work it around. These typically aren't as dirty as the outer sleeves for obvious reasons, but sometimes you find some funny stuff in it. Like, I got a collection from one of my dad's friends, and the Moody Blues album, there was a bunch of old pot from like the 80s. So if you ever get records for free, or you find some cool ones at a yard sale, you never know where you're finding them, but that looks a little bit better than it did. And again, like I said, this is not a surefire or sureproof way, but this is the way that I like to do it, and I'm hoping that somebody out there also does it this way, or I can teach somebody a good way to do it. And since this one has its inner sleeves, I'm going to give it an outer sleeve. And like I said, every time I clean up an old record, I give it a sleeve, and normally I do the vinyl itself and the sleeves on the same day. So I'll be doing those here in a little bit, and then they are going into my collection. Bam. Sometimes if I don't wring one of these out enough and it's too damp, I have a microfiber here just to buff it out afterwards. You can tell they're, does a pretty good job. If you ever come across a bunch of really dirty albums, this is my way of doing it. And there we go. There's 4 pretty dirty, grimy record sleeves cleaned with a Lysol disinfectant wipe. As I mentioned before, there are many different ways, and many collectors have their own take on how to do this. This is just the method that I use that I find to be the most effective. Something that I didn't mention in the video that I think is worth mentioning, because I found this out from somebody's video a while back. If you get the Lysol wipes, don't get anything with any colors in them. I have them all here bagged and cleaned and sleeved, and a couple good albums, a little bit of whipped cream and other delights that I'll give to a friend. Dean Martin, the Rolling Stones, and the Grateful Dead. If you clean your albums the same way, let me know. If you have any other ideas, also let me know. If you like this video, it'd be awesome to give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. There's going to be a cleaning video out, and I'm going to do some other videos and accessories and things like that. I am Carl. This is Ryder's Record Collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. Cheers.